first thing was to welcome everybody and open with prayer, correct? Okay, so welcome everybody. It's really nice to see you all, and for those we can see and who want to be seen. And I am looking forward to getting to know you all better. But in the meantime, we're just going to share information tonight and see if this is the kind of trip that you had in mind. But first of all, let's pray. The whole reason we're here is to give thanks to God. So let's pray. Loving God, we are here to wonder about your beautiful planet and the beautiful people who populate this planet in all sorts of different ways. And we're hoping that we will all go to El Salvador in a few months and be able to experience your presence in a whole different place, a different culture, different air even. So bless our conversations tonight and inspire us, give us the courage to ask what's on our hearts, and give us the strength and the direction and clarity to be able to follow where it is that you are guiding us. I pray all this in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
Okay, so I think I have the agenda, but I have a million tabs open on my computer. There we go. All right. So we're just going to do a presentation that Cynthia is kind of organizing here, just letting you know a little bit about how the evening's going to go, but also what you might expect on this trip. So Cynthia, you were going to talk first, I think.
Yeah. So can you see pictures?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
So
should we introduce? I just realized. Should we introduce ourselves, the leaders, first before we?
Sure.
Okay.
Be good.
We don't do this very often. So I'm Wanda, and I've been talking the whole time since you got on this call. And I am a minister in Brighton, Ontario, which is on the shore of Lake Ontario. And Cynthia, do you want to go next?
Sure. I'm a retired high school teacher, and I've been to El Salvador 3 times, twice as a leader. And I'll tell you a little bit about my story in the evening. I am married to a United Church minister and currently living in Cobourg, Ontario, which is about an hour east of Toronto. And Ryan?
And I'm Ryan, and I used to live near Wanda and Cynthia, and now I live in beautiful Kelowna, BC. Betty Jean, yay! Central Okanagan is the church. And I'm excited. Central Okanagan has a history with El Salvador through another group called Fundamir, and did some sponsorship. And I think some people did Habitat for Humanity builds as well at one time.
Interesting.
Thank you. Okay, Cynthia, I'll stop
talking.
Okay.
So I'm just going to share a little bit about what it's like to be a pilgrim on an adventure like this, and a little bit of the history about the relationship with El Salvador. So
before you start, could I ask, what are the dates of the trip? Have they been fixed?
We'll be talking a little bit more about this later, but there's some information we don't have yet. Are you able to wait, or are you going to leave if the dates don't work for you? Because it'll be over March break of 2026. Like, we just don't know. It's roughly like the first week of March break. Which is for schools is the 16th to the 20th, but it'll be that somewhere in that week in March.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Okay.
Go ahead, Cynthia.
Okay, so in 2018, my husband Larry and I went to El Salvador as pilgrims. And then in 2019 and 2024, I went down as a leader. There's a lot of similarities about what we did, but every trip is unique and different. There are some things I was told before going the first time, which definitely prepared me for what was to come. So I'll try to share some of those things with you tonight. It's about a 5-hour direct flight to El Salvador. And we try to get seats together, but often we are spread throughout the plane and going with other people as well. The first year I went, my seat partners were a couple on traveling on holiday, and they were going to the coast and were going to do surfing and go to all of the big resorts, and they were very excited about this, seeming to know nothing about the rest of El Salvador and what it was really like. On When I arrived, so that got me thinking on the plane. Even I'm going to a place for a very different reason than many other people travel to a place for. Okay. On arrival, I was immediately struck by the tropical climate. We would dress in layers on the plane, so you can take things off when you get there for sure. And it's winter here. The old El Salvador airport was absolute chaos, hard to navigate. But the new government has spent a ton of money on tourism. And as such, the modern new airport is state of the art. It is easy to navigate and it is very modern. We got outside the airport and we were greeted by Miguel and a group from the church in a big pickup truck. We loaded our luggage on and got on a couple of minibuses and were taken to our accommodation the first night. And the picture that you see here is the typical minibus that we would travel on, and it's sitting in the kind of the parking lot of the compound we stay at. Okay. We didn't see very much of El Salvador on the first day, but I was impacted by what we did see and how it felt on the minibus. San Salvador is a big, busy, modern city. There's 4-lane roads and they get jammed up with traffic, and many of the drivers are very impatient. The city's old and there are some very narrow roads. And I noticed our drivers were really amazing at navigating with these buses that seemed small to me at first, but in these tiny streets, they seemed huge. There are areas that are beautifully kept and very American looking, especially in the tourist areas. And then there are areas that you see of stark poverty. And I'm trying to get to my next picture and I'm confused. So I apologize. I want to share. Oh, goodness. Sorry. Am I sharing my whole screen now?
You are.
Okay, awesome.
Looks a lot neater than mine would, so
okay.
There you go.
So there we go. Nice and big. Oh, so there's some beside the big modern highway, you look up the road and you see some beautiful homes up on the high top of the hill there. And down at the bottom, you see some shacks. And the two live side by side. It's quite disconcerting in some ways. Anyway, we can't take a large bus because so many of the hills, the roads are so narrow. Okay. While I'm confused, I'm sorry. When we're there, we always travel in small groups and we always have a leader. So one leader will take a small group, 7 or 8 people, and they'll check in with them constantly. And we travel together on the buses. We mix up the group so that we get to visit with more people as we go. So Ryan, I'm turning it over to you.
Okay, I think the next photo is the gate. Or we can go to this photo.
There we go.
Whichever you want. Okay, here we are. So this is the gate coming into the place where we stay, Centro Gabriel de la Paz, right? The Gabriel Center of Peace, I think, roughly translated. Gabriel was a brother of this is Miguel's brother, as I recall.
Yes.
Who died during the Civil War. And so this facility, to tell you a little bit about it, first I'll share a little bit. So one of the main goals of going is to meet with United Church partners. And the number one thing we build is relationships with those United Church of Canada partners in El Salvador. The partner who acts as sort of, I would say, the main host is eBay, or Emmanuel Baptist Church in English. Usually they are our liaison with others during the day, but and take us around and make most of the arrangements for us. So when we were at this center, and we'll just jump to the next one. Here's a picture of some of us enjoying the center. This is our home away from home. The Centre Gabriel was a place that the church owned during the Civil War, and it was a place where children who were lost from their family members were brought. Eventually, it becomes an orphanage for a small number of children for whom they could not find family members to take those children back to. And those children actually stayed in the center until they finished high school. Most other children, I think there were about 120 children at one time. Most of the other children were reunited with some family members. And so even though it's a beautiful location, it also carries the weight of that history within the place. When we are there, there's usually a person, a groundskeeper, a person in charge of it. And if it's the same person as before, he has a couple of dogs that like to come and visit. Um, and there is a cook who has some help and prepare lots of amazing meals for us. It is a safe, friendly, and comfortable place to be. It is a secure place. I know people are often concerned about safety. It actually has a fence and a wall all the way around it. And we take a interesting road to get down to the center, a very narrow road, and then discover why we have to use these small buses. Um, there is running water. If you take a shower in the late afternoon, it will be tepid because it is heated by the sun, so it's very environmental. If you take a morning shower, it will be cool and refreshing, and that is quite enjoyable actually, because temperatures during the day are often mid 30s, and it doesn't get that much cooler at night. Let's move on to, I'll show you the rooms. Another picture. Oh, the food. Yes, here is, oh, we can go back to the next one. Picture with Jean and the food. Here's the rooms. Okay, this gives you a picture of what the dorms look like. Some of the dorms have bunk beds, some of them have single level beds. And we do have, there are 4 dorm rooms. Traditionally, it has been one for teen women, one for adult women, one for teen males, one for adult males. We're having some discussion about how do we accommodate different gender identities within this. There are also a number of a few smaller rooms where 2 people could sleep. Sometimes they're called couple rooms. Sometimes they're for people who have a particular sleep issue, and so we've used those and distribute those based on need. We all bring bed nets with us because although there are some screens, there are a lot of insects. My first trip to El Salvador involved having a set of bees decide to make a nest in our room. Julie's nodding at me here. So you prepared for everything. That's why you bring the net. Okay, Jean is standing in front of breakfast. Here you can see breakfast. You're going to eat a lot of eggs. You will eat a lot of beans. A lot of beans. Breakfast, lunch, supper, and they're wonderful, all different ways. If you're omnivore, chicken is a popular meat, although we do eat some other meats. They have been able to accommodate a variety of diets in the past, so you need not worry. We've had vegetarians. I don't know if we've had vegans on a trip before, but we have had vegetarians who found sufficient food and lots of. They work really hard to welcome us. Flipping over my page. The food is very fresh. A lot of the vegetables are fresh from someone's garden, bananas picked off the tree. And although it is a Central American country, the food is not spicy typically. There will be some spicy sauces if you would like to use them. But Salvadoran food, I would say, is more savory overall and makes more use of a lot of use of corn and savory herbs. And now I think it's back to Cynthia.
Okay, so El Salvador is an absolutely beautiful country. It's tropical, and in March, it's what they call their cool season or their dry season. It has rich vegetation, palm trees, gardens, mountainous countryside surrounding the city. There's a famous volcano. It has a name that I can't pronounce. And it's often the iconic symbol that you see when El Salvador is talked about. It has had its fair share of natural disasters. Volcanoes, earthquakes, and flooding have all come to El Salvador, and they seem to come in cycles. It seems like they get cleaned up from one event and then they get another event happen to them all over again. And that's one of the ways how the natural world in El Salvador has a correlation to the poverty in El Salvador. In the background in this picture, you can see small farms, and they're boarded off with vegetation and rocks and things, much like you would see in the countryside here or in a place like Ireland. But you can see how dry the road is right in front of you because it doesn't usually rain in March. El Salvador sits on the Pacific Ocean, and it is breathtaking. It is warm, and the waves are strong, and the undercurrent is incredibly, incredibly strong. The sand of the beach is black and hot, and it's black because of volcanic activity that they've had. And I would highly recommend bringing swimming shoes with you because the sand is so hot it can burn your feet. We try to book in one day at the beach. I don't know if that will happen again this year, but it's a great way to build some community and to relax towards the end of the trip. El Salvador also has an incredible artistic culture. This is an example of Fernando Yort. He is an iconic artist in El Salvador, and this is a wall mosaic out of ceramics. This one happens to be near the church where Oscar Romero served. We could, in an artisan market, you will see a lot of art that is inspired by Fernando Yort as well. And when we go to the artisan market, it's a great place to buy small gifts and, bring back something for your minister or family members. Okay, Wanda.
Okay. So we will go to church. We, like Cynthia said, we spend a lot of time building relationship and getting to know our partners. And one of our partners there is Emmanuel Baptist Church. We usually go to church there on Sunday morning. We are in the works of trying to create a sort of a side trip for people who have been before to another global partner in El Salvador, but I'll say more about that later. But this is eBay's church. You can't see the windows here, but as we've been saying all along, nothing is enclosed like it would be here. So there's just constant noise. And for those of us with various issues, sometimes that constant noise can be extremely exhausting, but it's just part of the life down there. So the church is on a corner, a very busy corner. So you're always hearing trucks and horns and all kinds of activity outside. And it's like they're right there. And everything bounces off those tiles. So noisy, but just so full of life and really lovely. So their services are led by a band, and the band is called 316 in Spanish, so for John 3:16. And they do some, I think you might recognize some of the tunes that they do. They sing in Spanish, but they do sing a lot of very North American sounding, like Western sounding songs. And it's a Baptist church, so it's a lot of sort of praise music, but they're beautiful and they're so it's just so faithful and so heartfelt what they do. And I have a very soft spot for this band. Okay. There are a few side trips that we would do. This is a picture of a youth center called Calpapil, which, to be honest, I don't even know if they're running anymore. A lot has changed since COVID. The church was hit quite hard. And Calpapil was a youth center that they opened up right in the center of a very active gang area. And if you've followed politics in El Salvador, you'll know that a lot of the gang members have been rounded up. They're in jail now. So the streets are very safe. And so a center like this would have a whole different function today. But I haven't heard, and we didn't go there, did we? In 2024, we didn't go to Calpapil.
No.
I know, okay, I see heads shaking there. Where we will go is to some of the communities where eBay has fostered relationships with, they have communes, the people who live off the land and they live communally. And there's other communities that are just quite impoverished and they live very much hand to mouth. And so Emmanuel Baptist Church has been helping them with school scholarships, making sure there is a school, making sure there's teachers, and offering church services on Sunday morning. So they've been really active in, and you can help me out here, I think there's about 8 of these communities. And while we're there, we've engaged in different ways. Sometimes we just go and visit and get to know them, and they tell us all about what they're doing with translators. And sometimes we go and we do the equivalent of a vacation Bible school, which I think is what might have been happening here. And then other times we will just go into a build. And so when I say that we go and do a build, what really happens is that we fundraise back here, and then we give the money to them and they start the build. They don't need us to do the actual build, but they really want us there to be a part of the project. So we'll spend a day, sometimes 2 days, helping them dig whatever aspect of the build they're doing. Sometimes it's a fence. Last time we were there, we built a septic system. It took us half the day to figure out that it was a septic system that we were actually digging. But we have pictures of these massive devices or canisters that they were going to put in the ground with holes in it, and that was their septic system. And this, okay. So this is, I can speak to this picture too. No, it's okay. You can go to the next one. There's a school in San Salvador that is connected to eBay, and it's called the eBay Colegio. It's like a private school. And again, when the gang warfare basically was making it very unsafe in the streets, this was a really really appealing place to send your kids where they could be safe from the gang influence, and then also learn a Christian message. And the focus of this school is creating a culture of peace, because El Salvador has a history that's extremely violent. And so this church has taken it upon themselves to try to teach people how to work things out in nonviolent ways through the arts, through sports, and just through discourse, learning how to have safe and respectful discussions with people. So it's amazing work that they're doing there. When we go visit the school, like I think in my notes there, it said something about a very competitive basketball game. We will play sports with them, and this is their field. It's a concrete center and all the classrooms are in those. You're only looking at one side, but 3 of those sides look exactly like that, and there's classrooms up there. And so while they're out there playing and squealing, there's no windows, and they're trying to have a class on the other side of those bars and teach little kids with all the noise we were making. But it sure is it's very engaging. Okay, is that somebody else now to talk about the?
Oh, it's you.
It's me again. Okay.
Yeah.
So I just had an email today from Katie Cox, who has been on a similar trip to Cuba, and they also raised in a totally different way, it sounds like, from how we do it. But we ask our partners what it is that they could use some help with, and often they need medical, like over-the-counter medical supplies, or school supplies, or anything. And so we try to, like through our congregations, we just do a drive, and then we get big suitcases. And in the past, we've been able to get humanitarian, so we don't have to pay. The airlines will give us a break. We don't have to pay for the baggage. We can't really count on that these days when they don't even give you a free bag yourself. So we're hoping that they will. So we'll talk more about this as the trip planning progresses. But all of those suitcases were brought by people, donated by their congregations. You probably can't see in there, but there would have been computers as well. One time we went down with like 8 computers. And it's just whatever it is that they say they need, we try to find for them and either have it donated or something that's just a little bit easier to get up here than it is down there.
This was supposed to be your Ades picture.
Oh, okay. Well, while you're
Okay.
finding it, I did mention that we're going to try to see one of our other partners, and there's a group in Santa Marta called ADES. We have two partners in El Salvador. And I've never gone to visit. I've been to El Salvador 5 times with the United Church, and I've never gone to visit ADES. But last year, like a year ago in September, Ever Hernandez came up from ADES to speak to us about some members of their community organization who had been arrested. They were water defenders. They were trying to stop mining from coming back into the country, and they had been arrested. And so they were trying to get international support to get them released because it was on trumped up charges. So they have been released. ADES is a wonderful group. One of the things that was highlighted in the Minute for Mission, it's not called that anymore, but the stories about our mission and service work was a project that they do on biodiversity with local farmers. And I'm really interested in that because I'm in an agricultural community, and I'm wondering if this would be appealing to some of the farmers in our area to learn about and learn from each other about different farming practices and how they're making it work in this context. But their main thing is building community and defending defending. I'm not coming up with the word, but the mining is very destructive in El Salvador. There's only a couple of rivers, and water is so precious. And so they had a ban. They were instrumental in getting mining banned from the country in about 2017. And then with this new president, he's sort of removing one obstacle now to get mining back in the country, so they'll have more revenue. And so there's always something going on. But I'm hoping that some of us will be able to get up to Santa Marta as well. But that's not Santa Marta there. That's Central Gabriel. It'll pop up eventually, and we'll just say that's ADES.
Yeah.
As you've been hearing, there is a complex history in El Salvador, and it's a country with a unique set of circumstances around land use, around water, that goes way back to colonization by Europeans, and sort of how that unfolded. Depending on our hosts, because we really are their guests in many ways, and they plan the time, we will learn about different parts of that history. Sometimes we have learned about the history of colonization. There's a fabulous museum about the history of El Salvador where it takes you through some of that and some of the indigenous cultures that existed and have been mostly lost. Sometimes we will go and learn about the arts in El Salvador and how they are a source of ongoing community organizing and pushback against the difficult things. And sometimes we've learned about mining and we've done work around water. They're putting, I think the last trip involved putting systems on roofs to collect rainwater, because most of the rain that falls in El Salvador falls in their rainy season, and their rainy season has as much water as Vancouver, but their dry season is drier than Phoenix, Arizona. To give you that picture of that. So there's a lot of things. We will definitely, though, visit this site. This is the church. It's on a hospital grounds where Monsignor Romero was assassinated during the Civil War. There is the church, and nearby there is a small museum, and we learn a little bit about that. On some of the trips, we have been able to visit his tomb, which you see here, which is in the cathedral downtown San Salvador. First time I went to El Salvador, we were not allowed downtown. The last time they allowed us to walk around downtown and go to a coffee shop. It sort of gives you a picture of how things have changed. There's a memorial wall, which we will definitely visit, where the names of all who died during the Civil War have been engraved. And as other names are found, they are added to this list. And Miguel often, who is the pastor of eBay, will often take us and show us his brother's name, Gabriel. There's a museum that another site we often, yep, the Center Monsignor Romero is another of the sites that we visit, which has a bit of a museum um, as well. And I'm just looking at the next, what's the next one? Is that our, yeah. And another of the site is the UCA, the University of Central America. This was a site of another of the murder set of that shocked the world during the Civil War, um, where a number of the Catholic priests who were Jesuit priests who were professors at the school were murdered along with their housekeeper and her daughter. And so they take you in. It can be quite, it can be a lot to absorb, I would say, and show you what happened, where it happened, because the rooms are preserved almost as memorials to them. And this is out in a garden around there. And so you have to be ready to some degree to have some encounters with difficult parts of the history, to ask questions about what were Western countries doing and their interests in terms of what was happening in El Salvador. And then I think we spend some time too reflecting on what are Western countries' interest in El Salvador today. You might have seen all the line by the current president that he's the coolest dictator around, and their giant investment in cryptocurrency and trying to get into that, while at the same time, definitely under also being influenced by China. And so, once again, El Salvador is a place where different major powers of the world are fighting, in a sense, a proxy war. That's one way to look at the civil war in El Salvador, is to see it in some degrees as a proxy war between Russia and the U.S. And I think we're entering a new and different phase of that, but it's still something like that is still going on. So it's complicated, right? It's a complicated place, and these are moving experiences, and we do include in the pilgrimage time to reflect on that, time to process in a group, in a small group, what we've experienced. I think that's all my.
Oh, there's the
Here's
Ades picture.
Ades.
So that was just this September a year ago. And so a couple of group pictures at the end. So this disparate group of people walk together in El Salvador with our partners from eBay. It is an eye-opening and absolutely life-changing experience. We build bonds with the group that we travel with, and we build bonds with Salvadorans. And we carry learning back home with us. We carry prayers back home with us, and they keep us in their hearts and prayers as well. The teenagers especially talk about how eye-opening the experience can be, and how they don't look at the world around them when they come back in the same kind of way. And just one of the other groups that was there. Oh, Bill, I see you there in the front. And that concludes the slideshow for today.
Thank you.
And I don't know how to stop sharing.
Beautiful cups.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Stop sharing. There we go.
There we go. So, Ryan, did you want to talk a little bit about money? Are you even in a position to talk about money?
Well, I can give you that rough picture, because we're not sure exactly what the costs of different things will be. I have the information from before. And just to fill in a little bit, Miguel, who is maybe in a way that is foreign to us, at the center of that congregation, his mother has died recently. She was in her 90s. And, you know, as we all know, when someone close to us dies, it can kind of throw things into a bit of a loop in our lives. And so we're giving them some time and some space to grieve as we gather information and trying to get back to us. My rough calculation is it's going to cost between 2,600 and 2,800 Canadian. That's my rough calculation. For those of us from the West, It looks to me like the best way to fly there at this point is through WestJet and Aeromexico, because then we can avoid going through the United States. And that seems to be the most affordable way of doing it. For the folks coming from anywhere within driving distance of Toronto, Avianca has a direct flight, which is more expensive than the other one, but it will balance out, I think, in the end to be in that price range. What kinds of things do we pay for? Just to give you a picture of that and what the kinds of things are included in that. That is our airfare. Once you get to the airport, that includes, when we're there, all of our transportation, all of our meals. Some are, many of at the center, but often lunch is out somewhere. It could be a picnic. It could be in a restaurant. There's a famous chicken restaurant in El Salvador that they usually take us to. When we've had a large group of youth, they've often taken us to a pizza restaurant where they had some neat combinations. And those kinds of things, water and sodas, and we usually have some snacks for the evenings back at the center. So all of those things are included in that. Our beach day meal is usually included in that. And to go to the beach in El Salvador, you actually end up paying to go to a beach club, because unlike in Canada where, right, there's public land, there isn't that public land. Everything is privately owned. So just to access the beach, you go usually to one of those places. So those are the things that are, it's pretty much once we're there, unless it's your own snacks that you want, or we're out somewhere and you really need a coffee, because that happens to me a lot. Or you want to bring back souvenirs, that's your cost. But we try to put it all together. In terms of fundraising for both the trip and for anything we're doing in El Salvador, we have typically done a pooled fundraising in the past. Often people who are participants, the pilgrims, will seek assistance from their congregations to support what we're doing. There are some bursaries that different regional councils hold to support on these kinds of trips, or to support continuing education. And so we do some grant applications as well to help defray the costs.
So the cost you've just given us is the real cost.
Yeah, I've given you the real cost. Like, if we don't get any other, eCork has been very lucky in the past, I think, to have built up some seed funding as well that helps us pay some bills in advance, right? Book tickets and things like that.
Thank you.
And then we wanted a chance to open it up for questions as well. So kind of anything goes.
What kind of group size are you looking at? How many people?
Katie, just before I answer that, is everyone okay if I keep recording, or would you prefer that I stop at this point?
I would say continue so that others who couldn't make it get all the info.
Oh, I know, but sometimes people don't want their faces on Facebook. So, but Katie, please go ahead.
Group size. What would you like for a group size?
We are limited. As you heard about the buses, the buses will hold 14 people. And so it's really good if we can get increments of 14. So we wouldn't, but I don't think they could actually accommodate. We went with 36 people once. I think that might be the biggest trip we've ever done. And it was too big. So at 28 is kind of the magic number. And that includes 4 leaders. There's only 3 of us here tonight. But that includes 4 leaders. So 24 participants. We happen to have 3 regions represented here. So 8 people per region. We're not doing the math that way, but it might end up being that way. And we do hope this trip was born with the idea of letting younger people experience how other people live, basically, in the world, and making these relationships. And so we do prioritize applications from people under the age of 30 to try to build so that half of the trip is young people and half of it is people like my age. Not so young.
And what we've noticed on that front, just to add in, increasingly it's a parent and a child, or a grandparent and a child, which actually makes for a really wonderful experience, because then when you go back, you get to share that experience together and continue to grow from it. So that's another opportunity.
Any other questions? Ned?
I was just going to ask,
Ned.
what's the minimum age?
We say high school, so 14 roughly. But if somebody's close to that and is mature and the trip would make sense for them, like some people when they're 12 and 13, it's just, you know, that this really isn't the right thing for them to do at this stage in their life, but others are old enough. So officially we just say high school age, but we have, like our last trip, we had somebody who wasn't in high school yet, and she did very well.
But she did have family with her.
She had family there, and the family's here tonight.
Yeah, it was a great experience. I mean, overall, the trip is life-changing. It's not a trip you go and say, well, that was interesting. That was it's with you for a long time. So many moments of that trip. And yeah, my granddaughter went, and she was 13. She wasn't 14. She has a late birthday. So yeah. And 1 minute there was a couple of them that were on the younger side. They were acting like, typical giddy teenagers, they were enjoying themselves. But the impact, though, I mean, there are many things that Peyton still talks about, and we could see it, right? We could watch them, some of those very difficult moments, and asking some pretty, intuitive questions, just trying to get their heads around things. And, maybe that's sometimes how young people deal with it too. But it was a life-changing experience for ourselves, but it was life-changing to watch it was amazing to watch the young people and, what they got out of it. And yeah, it's amazing.
And that's one of the advantages to working in groups when we're there. We typically divide into 4 groups, one for each leader, and the youth get put together so that they are free to ask young kind of questions and not be intimidated by adults around. It's a very open and very safe space.
I think it helps to have the high school teacher there.
Yeah.
It's not even though it's a tropical location, it's not a tropical vacation. So if you think about maturity of youth going, this is not like you might be at a beach for half a day at the end of the trip if it allows for it, but it is not, it's work, no air conditioning, you're like, it's not, just think about that. If you're thinking about a youth that's attending, they have to be okay with it being in the tropics more or less without having all that, I don't know, all-inclusive resort sort of satisfaction, because it is definitely not that. So, yeah. You are in central San Salvador for most of the time.
I went with both my kids in 2 different trips, and my daughter was quite young when we went, and they had those moments that Lori was talking about where they were like, you're just being, it felt so inappropriate, just how silly they were being. But it changed her life. It really did. It set her on a course. And there's other kids that we've gone with who you look at them now, they're in international relations, international development. Like, it's clearly had an impact on how they want to spend their lives. But for me going as an adult, it felt when I was just a participant and not a leader, no responsibilities, really, it kind of had that summer camp vibe. Like, it really did feel like it was an intense summer camp, mind you, very intense, but you were sort of part of the group. You were kind of carried along with the rest of the group. You could debrief with people. You just always had someone to lean on. And yeah. Any other questions?
Yes. Well, there's 2 main questions. Who is eligible to go? And I presume you vet these people in some fashion. So,
do you want us to answer one question at a time?
Yes.
Okay. Does anybody else want to answer Bill's question, or do you want me to answer?
Go ahead.
Okay. We take all the applications, and if we get the right number of applications, and I've never had anybody try to come who I thought would be disruptive, and like we've never had to vet anybody out per se in that way. That when I've been involved. It's a very interesting question. But if we do end up with, let's say, 40 applications, then we will go through them. We'll read why people want to come and base on merit that way. And you know, there's a lot of factors that we would take into consideration.
Balance youth and adults. Balance those who've experienced the trip before versus new pilgrims.
Yeah. Yeah. Your next question, Bill?
Well, I've been to El Salvador twice. One was shortly after the Civil War, and then 25 years later. So it was before COVID, you know, so that would make it 5 or 6 years ago. And and the last trip was designed mainly, principally for teenagers, and that they have the sort of experience that you've outlined, and with the sort of limitations that many there were a number of teenagers that did not have parents, or so they needed to be sponsored, and that you know, and so are you anticipating having to sponsor teenagers? And if I can just add to that, the Emmanuel Church that I go to in Ottawa has had a number of contacts with people living in El Salvador and in people, and that one of the people that I shared a room with couldn't afford to go on the trip, but we got some funding for him, and he went down to visit his father, who was elderly, and so that you know, so I'm raising the question of having people that don't have the funds to put up. So
you've raised a couple issues in that second one. You're talking about youth without family members with them, and then you've also talked about people who don't have, for whom the cost of the trip might be a barrier. And we've been, every regional council is different. I'm kind of looking longingly at the people from Kelowna because I suspect they have a lot more money than we do in the East. But anyway, there are funds available to help support people, and the local congregation is also welcome to help. I know that many people get some help from their congregation. In terms of youth on their own, if there is a youth on their own, we make sure that we have, and that's part of the reason for having the small groups. And I'm going to ask Cynthia to say a little bit more about this in a minute, but that's one of the reasons to have these small groups, because then the youth they can identify with 4 or 5 other people who are their people. And there's one responsible adult who is looking out for those 4 or 5, or I can't imagine the group would be any bigger than that, but looking out for those people. And so going through the airport, for instance, we're all attached to somebody if they don't have a family member with them. But in terms of it is their trip. So we all become a community supporting each other. That's about the extent of it. But Cynthia, did you want to say more? Because we've talked about this in the past.
Yes, so we paired every youth with an adult. So if they came with family or friends, they were automatically paired. But otherwise, they would be paired with an adult who would be responsible for taking their documentation across the border, and they would go through customs together with that adult. Most of the youth who came had an adult on the trip that they were familiar with. They were from their home church. So that was very helpful for that, the coming and going in and out of country.
I know in the past I have been partnered with youth who were there without family. They were on their own.
And we would partner the leaders up if that wasn't the case, if youth did decide to come solo from their congregation.
That's happened as well. With regards to the funding, I would say never let the cost be a barrier, and we'll try to figure it out as much as we can. You know, that's really the goal. It's amazing to me every time the amount of, like, getting the money is not a difficult thing. It just, people are excited that we are doing this. They're excited to learn. Often what we recommend is that you, before you go, are doing something in your congregation, some way to share, and after. And so, particularly in eCork, they've built up a real network of people who have an interest in El Salvador, to the point that the UCW in that region themed their last the fall gathering in 2024 around El Salvador, and raised money to support the school, eBay school. And now those folks are on a one-on-one relationship with Miguel and the folks at eBay. The other interesting thing that has happened in the past, just to kind of, it's not over when we come back, because often we've been, partners from El Salvador will be coming to Canada. As you saw Eber in pictures, Miguel has come, some other folks have come at different times. And so we build a network of people who can host partners. Of course, it's easier because they're often coming to Toronto, so it's easier in the 401 corridor. But if we got them out here,
hey, there's a lot of family
come into the church and share. And I had wonderful times. Once Miguel was in one congregation, and we just had coffee, and people got to talk, ask questions. Another time we had a barbecue when he was visiting. We had that wonderful event with Ever and the folks from ADES, talking about international support and what it meant for Canadians, just to get our government to support them, which basically got the ambassador in El Salvador to support the Santa Marta Five in both their trials. And so you really are building these relationships that go on. And that's why we think it's so important.
Yeah, but I like what you said, Ryan. And please make sure that message is shared widely, that don't let money be a barrier. There's lots of things that are real barriers. That's not a real barrier. We can work around that. Well, it's been.
I've got another question.
Okay.
I don't want to monopolize this, but the last time I was in El Salvador, I got a list of. I'm a physician, and I have access to a group that can supply prescription medication to less developed countries, and the first trip I took some medication, but I didn't know exactly what to take. And this time I got a list from Miguel, and I wanted to involve the church, and there was one prominent member of the church who felt that this was too involved and is not worth the effort. So I went to another church group saying, would you take some medication and deliver it? And they consulted this individual, and he once again said, well, it's too much trouble. That's what we've done. So are you willing to transport some medication to El Salvador? It will have to be to a specific place, and that if I can resurrect this um, request, so it's been a few years, and that I just gave up after this individual's basically.
Well, Bill, we can talk about this a little bit more after, maybe as things progress, because I think it is possible there will be a physician on this trip with us. And what we try to do is respond to whatever they're asking for. And if we know that there is a need for medications down there, we'll do whatever it is that we can do to make sure that we bring what they need.
And sometimes we found it better to buy the medications there. Some things that are over the counter here are controlled there and vice versa. But some things that the basic things were very easy to acquire. Things like the deworming and those kinds of things for fungal infections, those we could acquire there very inexpensively. And so it was some of those things, it was just worth just raising a bit of money to buy them. But we often brought things like Tylenol, Advil, cold and sinus, those things, because it's cheaper for us to pay in Canadian dollars than in US dollars, which brings up one thing I didn't add, which is El Salvador does use the US dollar, which is one of the things that means some of the costs are a little more sometimes, or there's a bit of fluctuation we have to be prepared for.
Yeah. There's one of the things that we learned, Ryan's favorite quote was like, maybe we will, maybe we won't, because we never really know if things are going to go the way we expect them to go. And we have a plan and we can have an idea before we go down there, but anything can change in a heartbeat depending on the context. I think it might be a little steadier now than it used to be, but anything can change. I'm sorry, Katie, did I see your hand go up?
You did. You had said in the information email you sent out that you would talk about the medical requirements for participants.
Yeah, and there really aren't any. It's very minimal. There's suggestions, but you don't have to, like, malaria is not an issue anymore. You don't have to, I don't think there's any required vaccines unless that has changed recently. They do suggest there are recommendations, but what we always say is go to a travel doctor, set up an appointment with a travel doctor, and they will give you the latest information and help you with any decisions you need to make.
I don't even know where my nearest travel doctor is, Wanda.
Do you have a family doctor?
I have a family doctor, okay, but we do not have a single specialist where I am.
My family doctor is also the travel doctor in Uxbridge. Not that I live in Uxbridge anymore, but if you just ask, they may be able to fill that role, and you may be able to do it online as well.
Yeah, I don't think they can fill that role because they don't have access to the vaccines and stuff.
We used to look at the CDC, but that's a little more questionable these days because they had a great travel set of information, but you're never sure what RFK is doing there. I think at one time in the past too, there was a more concern about yellow fever. Didn't we get yellow fever one time?
And dengue.
A long time ago. Dengue, but we don't go to the area where there is some dengue. Some of us got the rabies vaccine because El Salvador has 136 species of bats, but that's, again, not required. And you're going to sleep with a net, so.
Yeah.
There's also
when I went to the travel clinic, they did recommend yellow. Yeah.
Sorry, Lori, when you went to the travel clinic and then I couldn't hear you.
They did recommend the yellow fever vaccine, which I had. Yeah, yeah.
And where was the travel clinic you went to?
In Belleville. I'm in Ontario. Yeah. So that's sometimes there's nursing clinics that do the travel vaccines. Doesn't actually have to be a physician, but yeah.
When I was in BC, they would be done by the pharmacist. Raya.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
They had the list and would do them all for you.
And in some cases, like you would buy the vaccine and take it to them and they would just administer it. Like it really depends on what the vaccines are. So,
Oh, it was really easy
yeah.
with the London Drugs in Penticton. No, you went in, they brought in the vaccines and did it all.
So I'm looking at, there is a website called Virtual Travel Clinic, virtualtravelclinic.ca. They will meet with you online, get the right vaccines and prescriptions, and then you pick up your travel medicine at your local pharmacy. So who knows who administers it if it's online?
Then the pharmacist
a needle.
would.
A needle?
Yeah.
Yeah. Some of us, what's it? Ducarol? Isn't that the one we all? Yeah.
Oh,
Julie recommends Ducarol.
absolutely.
Because Montezuma's Revenge is not fun in a large group.
And if you can, I have always taken down a prescription for Cipro as well. I've had to use it once, and I think it saved me. I still got sick, but I didn't get really sick. I just had to be very careful for the rest of my trip. But I don't know if they'll still hand those out, but it's a wonder drug.
Yeah, I think I got a prescription for that too, actually.
Yeah. So we can.
Could I just add something that I hope there aren't people that are vaccine hesitant going, and it's very important to do the things that one would normally do, like being vaccinated against influenza and being vaccinated against COVID.
Yes.
So
proof of COVID vaccine is required for admission to El Salvador.
Really?
I looked up admission requirements this week when I began to consider it.
Okay, interesting. Well,
it doesn't say that you need your latest shot. It just said you needed some proof that you had one. Or you could take a negative test. That was it. That was a bypass. Or you could take a COVID test.
Is that current?
I got it off the internet. I don't know if it
must
current.
Be true.
No, it may or may not be. It may be out of date.
No, you know what? Whatever they say the requirements are, that's what we will adhere to. We have to. But we don't have any restrictions on our own. We haven't. We would like it if everyone is mindful of the fact we're going to be living in community when we're down there. It would be great if we could all be as healthy as possible. A lot of us are probably going to get sick at some point anyway when we're down there because it's just so different for our bodies, and it's tiring as well. But if we can avoid the big things, that would be great. But we don't have any specific requirements except what's going to get us into the country. And it sounds like they might want us to be vaccinated against COVID. We'll confirm that. Thanks for bringing that up, Katie. We will definitely provide a list for people who are interested. Once you've applied, because that's Kevin, did you have your hand up? Okay. Once you've applied and we have our list of who will be coming on the trip, then we'll be able to start sharing information, like specific information about next steps and what we're going to need from you, that kind of thing. But yeah, in the meantime, I think I can see Ryan's probably on his computer right now looking at stuff too. Yeah, I'm very excited. I did get a couple of messages come through after the meeting had started of people asking for this link, and I sent them the link, but I didn't see them appear here. So if you did come on the trip, it's probably not just going to be the people who are on this screen. I know for a fact there's a young man in our congregation who had to work tonight, so he's not here. But yeah. Well, any last thoughts, anybody? questions. There's the link that Cynthia led. I just clicked on it, Cynthia, and I needed to request permission to get in, so I couldn't see if there were questions on the document.
Okay. There are not any questions on.
Okay. I'm going to take a screenshot. That just feels like the easiest way to know who is here.
I take it back. When I Google El Salvador entrance requirements, it does not say COVID right now.
Okay.
They have been changeable in the past.
It says consult your healthcare provider. So
okay.
It may have been an older document I was looking at.
Okay.
You need a blank page in your passport. You can stay for 90 days. You may have to purchase a tourist visitor card for $12.
Yeah. And if we do have to do that, we will take care of that ahead of time. We'll figure that out. That's not something you'll have to scramble for at the last minute. We'll have that figured out for you.
Speaking from experience, these are all great questions. Once it's confirmed if you're going or not, all of this information will be given to you. You'll actually be like, stop giving me information. It's so much information. So don't worry. I just add, trust the process. Because we are very well taken care of.
So I get it though, because I remember the first time I went down and we were in the orientation meeting and I was feeling overwhelmed until I saw a picture, and this was the old airport, but I saw a picture of the front of the airport and flags, and it looked modern and familiar, and I just suddenly I went, oh, okay, we're not going to a new planet. It's just a different place. So I know we have different, it's all unknown, and you're trying to gather information. I totally get it.
So I've popped my email into the chat. So if you want to jot that down and send emails anytime, if I can't answer them, I will forward them to Wanda and Ryan and CC them in responses as well.
And if you got the email from me, you would have Cynthia's email on that as well, because I actually addressed it to Ryan and Cynthia. Okay, it is 10 after 8. We said we'd only keep you for an hour. I can see Bill just chomping at the bit, wanting to say something else. So Bill, I'm going to give you the last word.
I'm not sure that I will have contact information. Could you see that I'm sent that?
Bill, I actually don't think you were on my list, so I don't know how to get the information to you.
Okay.
Can you have a look at Cynthia's, or is your email easy? If you could just tell me your email.
Well, it's bill3alex@gmail.com. It's BILL numeral 3 ALEX.
ALEX at Gmail.
At gmail.com.
Okay. I will make sure you were on, that you get the link to the questions and that you're on the lists. And you have the link for the application as well? To go on the trip?
I'm not sure everybody does, so we should put it in
No, I don't. I don't have
it in
that.
the chat.
Okay. And Val, I'm not, I don't know if I have any way of getting a hold of you. Did I send you an email?
Val is muted, so I saw her lips move but didn't hear an answer.
The application is now in the chat.
You got it from your church office. And which church are you a part of, Val? Oh, perfect. Okay. We have been, who was it that sent us your church administrator, Emma, I think? Yeah. So, and Bill, are you at Emmanuel as well? Okay. So I'm going to put the link in the chat right now for the application.
I just did that.
Oh, so much faster than I am. Oh, I don't see it.
Pilgrimage to El Salvador,
Oh, there
March.
it is.
There it is.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So I will make sure that gets out to Emmanuel United, like to everybody who got the email yesterday morning from me or today from me. You'll get this link as well. There's a few people on here who have asked nothing, and I just want to leave a little bit of space to see if anybody has questions, and there's no bad questions. So if there's anything just before we go that you want to ask, or you can just email us. Either Cynthia, Ryan, or I, just email us and we'll fill you in if you don't want to ask in front of other people.
More of a comment just from me is because I have been in the past, should you get a large number of applications, yes, I would love to go again. However, I'm more than happy to step back to give other people opportunities. And my son is of the age where if there's another one in a couple years, he could attend then as well. So we'd love to go, but I don't want to, because I've been already, this would be my third trip. By all means, I do not need to take the space of someone else who wants to experience it for the first time. So just send me an email and
Thank
let me
you.
know. And that's it. But
Yeah.
just, I applied because I wanted to make sure you had my name, but I just wanted to be clear on that it's not,
Okay.
I don't want to take the experience away from someone else.
Thanks, Tracy. Appreciate it.
You are welcome to send Colson no matter what.
I know. It's a funny thing but we'll talk about that later, Cynthia. It's very different in my mind bringing a child. I'm more nervous to bring him than I ever was to go on my own. And I have to unpack that a little bit, but I don't know. Anyway, so yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, everybody, thank you very much. Blessings. Ryan, did you want to close in prayer? You're muted. It has to be a prayer we can hear.
You don't like silent prayer?
Well, I do, but
okay, let us pray. Holy One, we give you thanks for this gathering, for our partners in El Salvador and around the world, for the ways we learn about your love for all of us in community. Bless us as we consider joining in this pilgrimage. Bless all who will go, that we may build your community here on earth. Amen.